blocks it. So your natural neurotransmitter eventually runs out. You know, the enzymes come and eat them up. But with methamphetamine, it's so chemically similar, structurally, to dopamine. Your body can't tell it apart. Yeah, amphetamines enter your neurons, take over where your dopamine was, and so it's just flooding. It's just constantly flooding. That is a very, very dangerous spot because your enzymes, your body is trying hard to create balance, and it's not working. Bless you. So here's what happens. Your body will create balance. Your body will find a way. Remember, we have a nucleus of all of our cells. All of our neurons are just like this little cell here. What's in our nucleus? Anybody know what's in that nucleus? Genetic material, DNA. So, Ben, if I'm going to clone you, I'm going to try to stab you, take some of your blood, maybe take a red blood cell. Huh? What?
Don't use the red blood cell.
Don't use red. What are you going to use?
Well, it's on nucleus. So
Okay.
we know genetic.
So need to find some genetic white blood cell. Got your DNA in it. Take that out, replicate it. You know, put it in a stem cell. You know, they've done cloning with animals, and so we can actually replicate Ben if we wanted to. Kind of scary where we're at scientifically, you know, but because that's where our DNA is. Our DNA is stored in here, in each one of your cells that have, you know, a nucleus. We have our DNA stored there. So here's what happens. Say this is a dopaminergic neuron here. And so it's sending, here's its axon, it's sending more dopamine this way, and it's receiving dopamine this way. So a person stays up for 24 hours. And you're not supposed to feel that high for that long. Naturally, you're only supposed to have dopamine out in the synapse for 30 minutes maybe, not that long. What's happening is, now instead of enzymes working, your nucleus starts, the nucleus of your cells starts working and starts to make decisions. It starts to say, you know what, I've been active for too long. I'm not going to send any more signals this way because I can't stand it anymore. I don't need these connections. This is called pruning. This is like taking your hedge trimmers and pruning up a tree. This is called dendritic pruning. So the more meth a person uses now, the more that their connections are being wiped out. So I've stayed up for a week on meth. Maybe 2 weeks. You know, that long bend. I mean, it takes a while to get up to that level of use. So these connections are now gone. So I used to have 5,000 connections here. Now I've got 2,500. That's a bad thing. There is some research that is suggesting there can be some neurogenesis. The neurogenesis that can take place after this is permanent brain damage is what we're talking about right here. A vast majority of, and really that's, you know, the neurogenesis coming from a treatment standpoint for folks that have, you know, been abusing meth for a while, trying to help them improve. There can be some mild improvement. But we're talking about the chemical that's responsible for you feeling pleasure, for you knowing what you need to survive, for you getting pleasure out of life. That's gone. So somebody that's done this type of damage to themselves, what's their ability to feel pleasure now? It's impaired. Literally is impaired. You can have a cocaine-induced depression. You can most certainly have a methamphetamine-induced depression that's Somewhat permanent. I would venture to say yes, it is permanent. It is. So many times you have people that are very significantly addicted to meth need a psychotropic cocktail of medications to help them make it because they have done significant damage. So now I'm going to use for 6 months, go on binges. Literally, you can look at MRIs of the person that have used meth and see holes missing in the gray matter. You can see where their dopaminergic chain of neurons used to be. And there's just holes. They're not there. Once this cell has decided to cut these synapses or cut these dendrites off, you've done genetic damage. This is very, very significant. Once that cell has made the decision, the nucleus has made the decision to prune its dendrites, you have done genetic damage to yourself. So here are the effects of methamphetamine. Permanent brain damage. Once connections are gone, they don't grow back. They may grow back a little bit, but for the most part, no. Permanent genetic damage. If connections were lost, genetic damage was done. You see loss of teeth. You see a lot of progressive periodontal disease. So let's think about what's happening. Let's get the big picture. Let's bring it in for a landing here.
Okay, so I have a question real quick.
Okay.
You say that there was genetic damage. In the event that they were able to think after this and to have sex, and they got pregnant, and they stopped taking the drugs, the damage would already be done.
I would make an argument that yes, some of the DNA they passed along to their, even though they weren't pregnant, I would make an argument that yes, you are sitting on some modified DNA. Now again, you've got to go through the whole childhood development, in utero and to see what that is, but. And it used to be thought that once we got down to interpreting the genetic code, because like 10 years ago, 15, is it 15 now? They cracked the genetic code and looked at all the double helixes and all. They said that now that we've done this, we can do anything. And what they found is that it's really more complicated because even in the little bitty sections of that double helix, there's little modifications, little things they weren't aware of that we're all so different and can inherit something from our 16th grandparent. It's just because we're such a mix of genetic material. So it'd be hard to isolate, 8 years from now, what type of damage would have been done to a child. But I would tell you that you did change your DNA. If you're looking at brain damage, your DNA is different. And that goes for males too. You're not off the hook. You're donating some. You're donating 50% of the stuff in that pot there. So anyway.
Yeah, I read a study one time where it was talking about males who used cocaine and fathered children passed on damage. They said it was damaged sperm is how they put it, but the genetic makeup of it was damaged.
These drugs are teratogens. I mean, they are. That's a word for what it's going to do to a fetus. Teratogen, basically, if you look at the root word in Latin, means monster maker. We'll get there in the course. So remember our brain diagram, and it was pretty simple. It was we weren't going into any sort of detail. We had our voluntary stuff up here, and our involuntary stuff. Where is meth working? Making your heartbeat increase, decreasing somebody's appetite, affecting somebody's sleep, their sex drive. Meth is working down here on basic primitive stuff. It's not working so much up here. I mean, so you're going to see, you know, when we get into looking at really the geography of the brain, you'll see some where this is really really present. So here's our brain in comparison to the rest of the animal kingdom, at least 3 other representatives. So we all have similar structures. We all have our little cortexes. You know, a little rat here has a little bitty cortex versus ours, which is pretty big in comparison. But the rat also runs on dopamine, serotonin, these same chemicals that we do. And so you can do some experiments, and you can take rats and you can put them in containers and give them choices. Give them choices of cheese versus methamphetamine or cocaine. And so the rat now has the ability to make a decision. The rat can come up and can choose to eat cheese, or an unlimited supply, that is, of cheese, or an unlimited supply of cocaine or methamphetamine. Anybody know what the rat will choose?
Methamphetamine.
Yeah. It may choose the cheese first or the food first because he's familiar with that. But yeah, this methamphetamine, I prefer that. Everybody want to tell me what happens to every rat they've had in this experiment? They die. They never, ever, ever go back to the food. Their brain,
Once they try the drug, they never go back to the food.
their brain, think about, you know, their brain in comparison to ours. They don't have this cerebral cortex that can make decisions. They're running a lot on instinct. And so that's how powerful that chemical that's released, that dopamine. Forget that cheese. Whoa, this is way better than that cheese. They emaciate, they keep on consuming, and they die. They've done a dose-related effect as well with offering rats punishment. Okay, so this is another study where they've taken rats and they've given them the methamphetamine, cocaine over there. And so once the rat goes over there and tries and ingests a little bit of the methamphetamine or coke, they'll give it a shot. So it's punishment, right? That's operant conditioning. We're trying to punish you away from using that. What's the rat do here? The rat goes back. And the thing about the experiment is they get a dose equivalent type of response. So the more meth the rat eats, the higher the dose of electricity the rat gets. Every rat that they've done that experiment with has electrocuted themselves. So think about that in terms of our criminal justice system and punishing somebody for using drugs.
So it'd be good rat poison.
It would be good rat poison.
Better mousetrap.
No, Ben has built a better mousetrap. So if you think about that, in effect, methamphetamine is lying. This basal, this very primitive part of our brain lies to our thinking part of our brain. So what? So what if you've lost your car? You can't make your house payment. So what if you've lost your job? So what if you lost your kids and now they're in DHS custody because you had a meth lab? So what? At some level, the brain is lying to the thinking part of the brain. You need this to survive. This is good. Just like the rat. The rat kills themselves because they keep on eating it. This same function is going on in the human brain, saying you need this to survive. They may not think it, but they sure do feel it on a very primitive level. And they may be able to think, whoa, I'm getting skinny, I need to stop and eat a cheeseburger, whereas the rat wasn't able to do that. But think about the misery that people put themselves through. This is the explanation for addiction. This is the prominent theory for addiction, why people become addicted to methamphetamine. You can carry this over. You can carry this over to gambling. That one time I hit that. And think about this as well. We go back to the brain illustration. The next time the person goes to get high, how high are they going to be able to get? They've impaired their ability to get high too. They can't, because they don't have the dopamine receptors out there to feel it. It's gone. So they're chasing this. I felt, oh, this is such a good high a couple of years ago. If I could just feel that one more time, just if I can do a little bit more, if I can do a little bit more. So you think about opiates, you think about, you know, the pills, folks that snort pills that do heroin, morphine. I mean, it's working on dopamine. Think about the alcoholic. Yeah, I can just get drunk one more time. They're getting dopamine too. This is addiction. This is, if you get something from this class, remember this one, because this explains it. This, you know, I did it in a really quick way, in a broad brush, and I trampled over all of our terminology. So, again, don't worry about getting real specific with this class, but just worry about this is what happens. So again, here's an illustration. Parent starts using drugs. They start very quickly to become, especially something like cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, opiates. Very quickly, alcohol can be included in there too. If a person's predisposed to be an alcoholic and has the right genetic makeup and the right predisposition, they can be right there with them. Kids and work start to become secondary and eventually don't matter. The brain has lied. The brainstem has effectively lied to the cortex and destroyed a person's life. So just some pictures of meth. You know, people smoke it. We'll talk about methods of administration. People definitely inject it. Old school meth lab, before they outlawed the Sudafed, that actually had an effect for a while until people just came up with alternative ways to make it. There's what it's like to be up on meth for a couple of days. And you can actually look at a person's brain, PET, looking at what areas are active, and compare a person that's been up on meth for a couple of days versus a schizophrenic, and they're indiscernible. It destroys, I mean, it literally destroys people. I mean, it alters a person physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. You know, you think about, you know, I give this presentation, the reason it's so watered down and not technical is because I give it to folks that work with kids that have been abused and neglected. There is a high rate of sexual abuse that goes on in cases that involve meth, that involve cocaine, that involve some of these chemicals that work with dopamine. Because you think about it, you know, where are we rewarded sexually? What chemical is responsible for that in our brain? Dopamine. And so if you flood with a chemical, a lot of times these drugs really corrupt somebody sexually. They really corrupt somebody, and people would consider doing things they would never consider doing without, you know, having that interaction. I'll get to this illustration later. There's some. Now I'll have to come back. No, I'll talk about it now. I'm gonna do a quick comparison with marijuana. They've done some studies with marijuana where they've given chimpanzees. I can't remember whether it's chimps or monkeys. It's some kind of monkey where they would teach it to smoke, ingest a marijuana cigarette. And so this is probably 20 years ago. This is older research. But they would go in and they would look at what's happened in a person's brain after they smoked like chronically daily, or in the monkey's brain. And what was happening is, say this is the axon, this is the dendrite, the material's coming this way. You'd see a lot of damage on the receptor sites, and it wasn't, you know, the chemical was bouncing off, it wasn't connecting, it wasn't attaching. And so you saw some brain damage, but also you had a group of chimpanzees, a group of monkeys that stopped smoking, and they saw repairing some neurogenesis there where there wasn't the pruning effect that we see with methamphetamine. Let's see, what else do I have on here? This brain again? What did I put back here? Oh, okay. We'll save that. We'll save. We've gone. Let's have. If you want a few questions before we adjourn tonight.
I had a question.
Yes.
When you were talking about how the enzymes will start to eat the natural dopamine, will that happen with both cocaine and methamphetamine, or is that just cocaine?
It's with both.
Okay.
So
And so then after that is when, in both of the drugs, when the nucleus will start saying that it's not going to send anymore, and start pruning it. Is that right? Is that kind of the process?
you're right that the enzymes your body will send. That's our basic line of defense.
The
And
enzymes are?
you'll see that even like naturally, when we have some throughout the course when we have some neurotransmission, our body will just send the enzymes out anyway, just to clean things up. I mean, the enzymes are out there to just kind of keep us healthy and keep things in a proper working order. But yeah, I mean, if somebody ingests meth, the enzymes are going to work to take it out. But it's still more powerful because it actually goes into your neurons. Any other questions? Gang, thank you for your attention tonight. Appreciate the interaction and your focus. And please remember your journals for next week. We're going to get we're going to step a little more technically next week and talk about brain activity. So we're going to put the pieces together around what we create a big outline for tonight. So we're going to fill in the blanks. But this is kind of where we're going with this, and a lot of the other substances will be very interesting because they don't necessarily all work like this. So what you should see as we progress in is a contrast with what we saw with the antidepressants versus the stimulants versus alcohol versus Xanax versus hallucinogens. So I want you, and versus an antipsychotic. I mean, I want you all to have this now. You'll be able to contrast and compare and make good decisions for whatever you do in your life. So anyway, thank you all. Don't forget your journal assignments for this week, because I know there's a few out there. And please make sure you check Blackboard for next week and it's under journals, under tools to write your journal. So take care.
Any specific topic for this week?
Specific topic, just whatever. Really, you could go 1,000 different ways with tonight's topic. So whatever struck you. Thank you. See you, Ponca. See you, Alva. See you, Renee. See you, Jennifer.
Well, I hope this lasts as long. Okay.
Thanks, man. See you. Was this too remedial? Was it too remedial? I mean, I tried to.
It's over, man. It's supposed to be.
Okay.
Yeah, and I had chemistry like a lot of years, it seems like a lot of years ago.
Okay.
Like, and so like, I'm like, okay, it's coming back.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
Since tonight was my last night, am I responsible for a journal for last week?
Oh, is this your first night?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh no. Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just because I didn't know if I needed to do PowerPoint or do something, or
Just send me a reminder that
tonight
this
was
is
my
my
first
first time.
class.
So this is my first class. So that would be a good first line.
Okay.
Yeah, I told her, I was like, yeah, come to this class. It's awesome.
Well, yeah.
It's really interesting. Yeah, well, I live in Lahoma.
Uh-huh.
So you saw the drug bust in Lahoma? It was right across the street from me.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I saw her, that's why I had so many questions, because I didn't know her kids were there all the time. I'd seen them there every now and then. I would see them, but she never brought them outside, even on the good, nice days. But there was one day, the roommate that got arrested with her, it was her boyfriend that got arrested, that was the main guy.
But she was out wandering around in the front yard. I'm assuming the kids were inside, but the roommate came out and he was like, okay. come
Just
on."
getting her to come back in.
Yeah, she was like in shorts
Yeah,
and a
disoriented.
shirt, and that was
Cold,
it.
yeah,
It was
cold.
cold. And she's like, where are we going? And he's like, come on, let's go to the house. And I'm like standing out there.
Yeah,
Just
she's
shocked.
tweeting. She's
Yeah. And a constant fighting. I mean, honestly, I'm sorry, but I'm glad that it's not my neighborhood anymore.
Yeah, no, they
But-
shouldn't. I live next door to somebody in Tulsa that was, I mean, they were actually manufacturing, and there's a smoking off phase. And when in my apartment started choking me, I started I couldn't breathe, my throat hurt, my eyes watered, I had to get out of there. Police came, they didn't have a warrant, so they didn't go in, but people moved next week. So it was good that at least, they didn't get arrested, but at least they moved out.
But how would have thought they could have gone in with exigent circumstances?
Yeah, because they can smell it.
Yeah.
This is what you get when you get criminal justice in here. But no, I've got 4 kids, and we couldn't let them go outside, out in the front yard at all by themselves. Because I'm like, I don't know what's going on across the street, it's just crazy. So it's interesting to see
Well,
how
good.
that would affect them, and
Yeah.
maybe
it's-
kind of understand how they could even,
it-
I still don't get it, even though
Yeah,
I watched that.
it really makes you understand how, maybe they don't have a choice, basically, once they started, it's just.
It becomes that way. I mean, other people, some people have, nobody got into it, that's okay, because it was overview, but some people have the ability to, not many, I mean, there's a lot of people that try it one time, and that's all it took. You know, they're gone. A lot of people that have had, what the research is finding, that have had a lot of trauma in their lives and don't have a lot of support systems, tend to then just, you know,
Take off with it.
yeah, yeah. So, it's not always though, it can affect anybody. but-
Right, yeah, I know this one that he got in trouble with a lot, and he ended up having to do jail time. And before he went to jail, I mean, he'll tell you, I went out, I did it constantly, 24/7, for 3 weeks before he had to go back for his sentencing
Yeah.
and turn himself in. He goes, I figured I'm gonna be in jail for 18 months, I might as well do what I'm gonna do, because I'm not gonna get it anymore.
Yeah.
But being in jail and sobering up
Did he finally,
made him realize
how bad?
how bad he was, and how much he didn't need it, and how much he was losing, because he had little kids, and then he realized how much he was actually losing, and he's been out of jail now for almost 10 years,
Yeah.
clean,
That's
you know.
good.
So
That-
it just,
If somebody can step out, it takes, one of the research, the newer researchers said that, it used to be 28 days, is how somebody would go to rehab, say 30 days. And now they're saying that doesn't even touch, your brain doesn't even begin to heal, say at least 90 days is a minimum for methamphetamine treatment to get somebody stabilized in their brain to start to think about healing. I mean, it can take a process of years to get some neurogenesis, but
So what
and that's
happens
where
to
he,
those?
oh, I'm sorry. I was like, that's where he believes, and he says that they need to go to jail, get completely away
Yes.
from it. The rehab's a good thing, but
they're not.
they're
away
not
from it.
controlled, they're not set there for, 18 months. 18 months
I'm
gave
not
you
saying,
that time.
I'm not saying that people at some point don't deserve to go to jail. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that it's just
Yeah.
affecting, just saying punishment works, that's not what
Two
happens.
different ways, yeah.
Well, and what happens to those when they go to jail and they are just, because I know withdrawal symptoms are horrible. I just can't imagine sitting in a jail cell going through withdrawals. I just can't.
The withdrawals actually don't last that long because it gets out of your system. Once your body's able to get out of your system, it gets out pretty quickly. But the damage is what's hard to overcome. It's not necessarily a withdrawal. It's just depression, anxiety. That's all very prevalent in folks that are trying to, overcome, not use again. And like you said, if they're not in a controlled environment, a lot of times it's too powerful for them and they go back.
Yeah. Huh.
So, good question.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, see y'all.
Okay.